think I will turn my camera on. Okay, everybody can see the screen?
Yeah.
Visible.
Yeah, okay, all right. So early childhood, a very, very, very exciting time for us. And by the end of it, when I'm talking, I want you guys to reflect back and think about your childhood as well, any experiences, anything that comes to mind. And maybe at the end of the class, because this has such an impact on the rest of our lives, and we're all adults now, I think. So, let's just see if we can relate it to real life instances, right? Okay, let's stop my video. All right, so early childhood. So we're going to learn about physical, this is wrong, psychosocial, not psychological, psychosocial, cognitive, and linguistics. So, okay, yeah, so introduction. So childhood, this unit 4 is divided into, childhood is divided into 2 age groups. In unit 4, we're going to be doing only the early childhood, which is 2 to 6 years. Late childhood is 6 to sexually mature, and nowhere I could find any age for that, because I think sexually mature is a very, very questionable thing. So each one would have their own things. I think even after 50, some people are not sexually mature. So
Geetha, could you do a slideshow so that it's a little bit larger on the screen?
okay, hold on.
Yes,
better?
thank you, fantastic.
Okay, great. So early childhood is 2 to 6 years, right? So late childhood is 6 to sexually mature, like I said, very questionable. Then early childhood is also called as conclusion of infancy period. I think we just finished that. I did not attend that. I missed those things, but that's called the infancy period. And after that, we come to the early childhood, where the children are called little individuals. So they are getting their own identity by the home and their parents and just being the baby. So they're trying to build their own personality. So they're called little individuals at this stage. And this is one of the long periods in the lifespan. And factors that influence in this period are child social history, culture, place, and biological. Social history is basically your experience from society. That's your social. And at this age, it could only mean parents or grandparents or uncles, aunts, anybody who's visiting or staying with you. Culture is, again, the culture that they're born into, because it does make a difference on the culture that you're born into. I'm not talking about religion, like even if you're talking about India or America, for example, you know the difference in the children that are brought up in these 2 different cultures. So that plays a huge role. And again, place, I think it's the same thing what I just covered now. And biological, I think they don't have a hand. What you're born with, you're born with. So your features, your physique, genetics, all of that comes under biological. So the meaning of early childhood. I like this definition by UNESCO. Is a time of remarkable brain development. These years lay the foundation for subsequent learning. And I do very, very, very much believe in this. As you guys know, I'm a grandmother. I have seen so many children in my family. And I can tell you for a fact, from my experience also, that how your childhood is definitely shapes you as an adult. So I think this definition by UNESCO really nails it. So some of the terms that we use during this early childhood are learning through play, play age, early childhood education. So basically it's called a play age. Children are learning through play, whether it is in your kindergarten or schools or anything like that. It's basically through play. And parents obviously are an integral part of the early childhood education process. The minute the child can learn, I think all of us say A, say B. It's like, though we shouldn't do that, but I think we start teaching them. So yes, so parents play a huge, huge role in the child's well-being. So some of the characteristics of early childhood. Toy age, again, like we just spoke about. It's very, very helpful in educating. And I just don't mean like how we just spoke about just your basic ABCs and all that. just the meaning to say all your puzzles and how one piece fits into the other. And I have seen this when, when the triangle goes into the little box, the joy that they feel is really heartwarming. So they definitely learn through that. And the school age, physically and mentally independent. Like I just mentioned, they're stepping away from the family safe environment. They don't know anything else other than holding on to their mommy's hands or daddy's hands and walking and always following them. So suddenly they're able to, think that, oh my God, I can take the step by myself. I'm going, I'm leaving them. It could be a little traumatic for a few children, but they will grow out of it once they realize that they can be independent. It's a very, very important stage. Foundations of social behavior, more organized, required to adjust to new school environment. So once they go into this preschool, they realize that, they can't really get up at any time and eat at any time. You kind of have a little bit more organized life. You come back at 4 or 12 or whatever it is, have a meal, you have a nap. So everything becomes a little bit more organized. And of course, they have to adjust to the new school environment, making new friends, and their routine is completely different from how it was at home. So the characteristics are also physical, cognitive, emotional, and social development. And I think that says it all. It's just self-explanatory. They become self-sufficient, independent, and they develop a self-esteem. So being self-sufficient, yes, they're walking in with a little water bottle maybe or a snack, and they are in the school, in the preschool, and they open and they're very happy, that they can do this themselves, pick up the bottles, drink water, have a piece of fruit. They realize that they are becoming more independent, and that develops their self-esteem. They feel really, really good about it. Physical care is comparatively lesser than behavioral and emotional care. So all the people who have had children would know, because the first year probably is only about changing nappies and feeding. They only feed, poop, and sleep. That's it. These are 3 things they do, as I'm seeing again now, practical sessions that I'm doing. So here in the school going age, it definitely reduces. Physical care is lesser because they are able to communicate that they need to use the toilet, and it's not as many times as before. So it kind of reduces. And there is behavior and emotional. Yeah, that needs a little bit more of attention from the parents or the teachers. Some behavioral problems here is obstinacy, stubborn, it's basically the same thing. Disobedience, negativistic, antagonistic. So basically, all of this is just they're trying to understand who they are and just testing the waters, just dipping your toes into this and saying, okay, let me see what happens if I do this, what happens if I do that. So they're just trying to figure out who they are. Is it okay? Am I going too fast or slow? Are you able to follow?
It's perfect, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So some of the hazards of early childhood, and this was also a question, it was a 50 marker or 100 marker. It was one of the smaller questions. So 2 categories, it's physical and psychological. So the physical hazard are 3 categories: illness, accidents, and obesity. So early childhood total hazard is into 2, physical, psychological. I think that is probably our differentiation in a lot of our studies. Under the physical, we have 3 subcategories, which is illness, accidents, and obesity. Illness, highly susceptible age. They're just building up the immunity right now. So you have to be very careful, especially respiratory illnesses, because of whatever the weather changing, cold air, rain, fans, anything. And sometimes if the children are sick for longer period of time, they miss going to their preschools, miss going out and playing, even if it's an apartment, going downstairs, socializing, or talking to other people. And for long periods of time, if they're again confined to home, this period gets delayed. So they fall behind in their learning skills and other activities, obviously. and it's very hard to catch up. And when they go back to the play area or school after a week or 2 weeks, there's a lot that has happened. So it might be a little hard for them. That's the first physical hazard, which is illness. The second one is accidents. Very, very prone to, we have to baby proof the house, which is knives, blades, burns, infections, broken bones, even electrical circuits around the house, any wires that are poking out, everything has to be baby proofed. Boys are more prone than girls. Some studies have put it in brackets because, again, I do not like differentiating like this already and putting this into our heads, or any students who are studying already trying to differentiate between genders. Right now, why do they say boys are more prone than girls? I actually don't agree with that, because girls are also out there doing everything else as much as the boys. So they are equally prone to any kind of accidents, bruises, broken bones, etc. Some accidents may cause permanent damage, disability. I mean, I really don't, obviously we can't avoid this, but for some kids do face this. You're getting a fall, you fall from a very high height or distance, or on the road accident, or something happens and it causes a disability. And high chances of death due to the accidents at this age. So they're really exploring, and they might just started to ride the bike and they're so excited that they don't look in the road and everything. So we have to be extra careful. They don't say terrible twos for no reason. So it does, you have to keep them under control. And obesity, though I feel they're very, very cute at this age, but it's not good. Endomorphic body type children tend to be more obese than mesomorph body build. Have we covered the different types of body types? If anybody else needs more information about the endomorphic and the mesomorph, we can always get back to that. Or anybody else wants to just give a brief about it right now? Wants to volunteer? Guys, the difference between endomorph and mesomorph? No?
We actually studied this in our personality types: endomorph, ectomorph, and mesomorph.
Yes.
So endomorph is more like endomorph is more like the
Mottos.
Can I add?
yes.
Okay. So endomorph, ectomorph, and mesomorph are these three types of personality given by William Sheldon. So he compares physique to temperament.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So ectomorphic are thin, long, and very fragile.
Endomorphic are thin, long, and very fragile.
Ectomorph.
Ectomorph, that's right. Yes, I thought that was wrong. Okay, please go ahead.
Ectomorph are thin and long.
That's right. Yes.
Endomorph are fat, soft.
Mm.
Mesomorph are strong, muscular. Lean bodies and well-built bodies.
That's right. Yeah, so here they mentioned only these two body types. I'm not really sure in going into detail because it was not covered much.
Because maybe Geetha, for children, mesomorph is not required, because it's all about, with very good build. With children, we cannot find out whether they have good build or not. Maybe just whether the children are like chubby, which is ectomorph, or endomorph, or they are thin, which is ectomorph. So maybe because of that.
Question. Yes. I'm not clear on these body types, in the sense that don't these depend on environmental factors and less on genetic factors? Because it depends on how.
No, I think they've done their research. It is true, endomorph body, they do tend to put on weight because they are a little broader in the shoulders. The mass is also there for it to collect. Whereas an ectomorph, like she was saying, is very lean and thin. So, it is difficult. So here there is place for you to put on weight as well.
Yeah, I think genetic is the reason for that, because after a few years, they even the children are endomorph. They start losing weight automatically once they get into physical activities.
Yeah, I agree. Again, of course, it's not just these two things. This is just one of the factors that contributes to the obesity. Obviously, they have done the research, so they've just mentioned these 2 body types, but your lifestyle, the parents, the house they build, everything makes a huge difference in the obesity category. So moving on to the next point, children who love food tend to have diabetes, heart attacks compared to normal children. I mean, again, I'm a little hesitant about this. Which child doesn't like food? I mean, I'm not saying healthy food. They didn't even say healthy food. They might like all sorts of food. Obviously, parents will try to, give them as healthy as possible. But I think, again, diabetes, heart attack also has a genetic composition here, which plays a huge role, and not just the food factor. So if you are obese at this early childhood, it will definitely lead to that later on if it is not controlled. And junk food, yeah. So if they have obviously junk food, you are going to become obese. I don't know whether if it's kids, adults,
But-
everything is for applies. Yeah, go ahead.
See, I have a doubt. See, comparatively, when you're talking about obesity in childhood, it doesn't necessarily mean that this obesity is going to carry on all throughout their life, right?
100%.
They might.
Yes.
Yeah. So heart attacks and diabetes that you're talking about might not affect them immediately after birth or something. It might go ahead a little later, right?
That's right. So they have done studies. I did read up a little bit about it, that when children who are obese, when they are in this age group, 2 to 7, very hard for them to, maybe they will lose weight in the middle when they're in the schooling age and everything, but they have the tendency to, be on the heavier side even as they grow up. They're one of the things which will be very hard for them to lose. Doctors always weigh them and say you have to keep them under this weight and everything, because they know, again, how important this early childhood is. And I have had this with my child as well. So I'm telling you, I know this in personal experience. And I used to get very angry with the doctor when he said, no, you have to give him less food. I said, how can I give less food to my child? He was
But
not
actually, I think there will be exceptions in this case, I guess, because I'm the example. Because in the childhood, I was like literally obese. But later, when I was in 8th, like that, I became so thin. So I think there will be exceptions, I guess.
Not for everything there is.
Maybe majority, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yes. Even if you're obese, even till you're 18, 20, whatever, and then you become healthy later on, and you can maintain a healthy lifestyle, you can 100% turn things around, no doubt about it.
True, correct.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on. So this was the last physical hazard, which was the obesity. So just to rehash, there were 2 categories, physical and psychological, in the early childhood hazards, which was, under physical, you have 3: illness, accidents, and obesity. So now going on to the psychological hazards: speech hazard, social hazard, play hazard, and moral. So in the physical, we had 3. In the psychological, we are having 4. So the speech hazard, communication is the key to social belonging. Again, it's very, very difficult if you don't communicate. Children feel low self-esteem if the parents or the peers are not able to understand what they're saying. You can't voice. And I think you would have seen this in a little group of children who are talking. It'll be the loudest and the one who is the clearest. Everybody listens to them because everyone can understand that one particular person. So it's very important to communicate as clearly as they can. So communication is through speech and language. Sometimes speech is not clear and difficult to understand, which leads to feeling of inadequacy. Quality of speech is poor in children. So these are all the hazards. Again, it all comes down to one thing, basically, that you can't communicate what your thoughts are to your peers or parents, and they don't understand what you're saying, so they will feel inadequate, or saying that what's wrong with me, or why don't they understand what I'm saying. So it definitely affects the self-esteem. The next is social hazard. Unpopular due to communication problem. If the child is unpopular, again, because of this previous speech hazard, they're not able to communicate. And children don't have that much of a patience to wait. Okay, let's wait for him to understand. They're not. I mean, genuinely, they are just trying to find their own place there at that point of time. So, the child might become a little unpopular. And because of this, he might start feeling lonely. deprived of peer approved behavior. So once they're out of the family environment and into the preschool, that is where their socially approved behavior starts. And this peer approved behavior to say that, okay, my friends want me to do this, or he's doing football coaching, so I also want to do that. So all these kind of things that they're exploring new in the preschool, that they'll be deprived of. If they're not able to communicate, they start feeling lonely and they're not part of any peer group. And this might lead to some unhealthy social attitudes also. And if the child's personality is such that he's angry and saying that, if they're not listening to me, then, let me start breaking things or shouting or something to get attention. Biased behaviors due to discrimination of caste, religion, sex. Children don't know how to differentiate. I mean, they're only taught from home. So again, here parents, I feel, play a very important role. Children do learn by observing. So you have to be careful what it is that they're observing. So if there is anything of this based on religion, caste, and sex that they have experienced before at home, they'll obviously show this kind of behavior in preschool. Less contact with outside world. So the more they're not able to communicate, they don't have peer groups, they'll start getting withdrawn more and more and probably just stay home and not venture outside because of low self-confidence. So these are the social hazards. Next is play hazard. So I think they're all related, really, all of these hazards. So again, you're isolated in the playground. Here the causes could be geographical, where I think anybody with an army background or anybody who's been moving quite often would know that anytime you go into a new city and you're trying to make friends, it's very hard. Everyone has their own set of groups. For you to break into, get connected with somebody again, might be a very challenging task for a young adult, children, and lack of playmates because of that.
I can relate to that one, Geetha. Simran here.
Oh, Simran, yes. Yeah, see, I
My
know.
dad was in the defense services, so I
Mhm,
think breaking into new groups and finding new friends
mhm.
was always a uphill task.
Yeah, yeah. So, but that also, see, again, here it is said it's a hazard, but if you overcome that, you will never have the fear of any new environment again.
So I think the advantages one ends up seeing when we grow up.
Yes.
One tends to become so flexible.
Mm-hmm,
You can just adjust in any environment, right?
Right. Yeah, we'll have to look at the positives because, yeah, any new environment, you can just take it on and you say, I've done this before.
Right.
Whereas children who have been in just one geographical location right from childhood to their college, when they step outside, they might have different kinds of challenges.
True.
Yeah. So this causes hindered motor skills. So if they're not venturing out, playing on the monkey bars and the seesaws and any other names which I can't remember right now, so it affects their, I'm sorry guys. Sorry about that. Okay, you can see it, it's gone. Yeah. So, so this hinders their motor skills. So children feel handicapped. Why do they feel handicapped? Because you want to go and play, but you can't go and play. You don't have the confidence to break into these play groups, and you're feeling handicapped. This again leads to their inferiority complex, saying that they don't have the confidence again to speak to your playmates, and you don't have the related skills to communicate, maybe, all of this affects your inferiority complex. So I really do feel, I wouldn't say sorry, feel for them, and children should be taught to have a little bit more patience and understand these are the children who have just come into the new playground. Next is moral hazards. So too much emphasis on punishment for misbehavior and too little emphasis on rewards for good behavior can lead to unfavorable attitude towards those in authority. So what does this mean? Whenever the child does anything bad and the parents or the teacher is like, kids are learning through behavior. So if they're really, really told off and given punishment, they might not understand what is it that I'm not doing right. They're still learning. And even at home, even the good behavior can lead to unfavorable attitude. Not enough rewards. Like if you're doing good, you're not being paid attention to. So they don't know that they're doing good. So this could be very confusing. And this unfavorable attitude towards authority would be because authority is always punishing me, so I don't like them anymore. And rules change every day, which causes confusion. Like today you're saying, okay, you can play, and do okay, in the study, like let's say the father's study in the den. Okay, today you can play. Okay, good, you're being very good. And tomorrow the father has a meeting or something and say, no, you can't do that. So the child is confused. So yesterday I was playing here, it was fine, I was good. Today I'm not. So rules keep changing and they're not able to comprehend that. So those are the 4 psychological hazards. Just to go back: speech, social, play, and moral. So the growth and development in early childhood. So growth and development are complementary processes, obviously. Growth is mostly body physical growth. You're growing taller, you're going wider, your limbs are growing longer. And obviously equally, your cognitive understanding of everything that's happening, your brain, your development, your speech, your environment, everything changes as well, grows. Development, qualitative and quantitative. So just give me a minute. I think I wrote some notes for this. Yeah, so growth again is just simple actually. I've just written down here. There was not much given about this. It's just bodily and physical growth, and development, qualitative and quantitative, is intelligence and creativity. Development is defined as progressive series of orderly, coherent changes. So everything is in sync. As you grow with 1 year, a little bit of talking. As you grow 2 years, you're a little taller, a little more, your motor skills are more improved. You're able to communicate better. Everything goes hand in hand. So that's why growth and development are always the coherent changes. They're cohesive. It all happens naturally between the two. So the development principles. So here the growth and development in early childhood has a few principles, and some of them are, they follow an orderly sequence. I think I just mentioned that. So they both together, you're growing in height and weight, and your understanding and your cognitive sense also increases accordingly. Each child normally passes through a number of stages, each with its own essential characteristics. So I think that's very simple. It's understanding. If you're just one, you're just playing, you're growing with that. Every stage has its own characteristics as you grow. There are individual differences in rate and pattern of development. I think what they mean here is every child is different. So do not expect every child to grow at the same stage. So even at 1 year, if one child is doing something, another child in 1 year, 2 months might be doing more. Maybe he didn't do it at 1 year. So, there are individual differences in the pattern of development. Though the human being develops as a unified whole, each part of the body develops at a different rate. So as I just told you right now, the human being, we are all in one. Obviously, 1 year when you're born, just now you saw the newborn baby. Each part of the body develops at a different rate, right? So not everything like saying, okay, chalo, let's go, like kidneys, liver, everything, like, start growing. So I think they all take their own sweet time, and each one has, bodies, the mechanisms of the body is just amazing. How it works, no idea. But yeah, they all have a different growth rate. Development is interaction between maturation, genetic endowment, learning experience, and practice. So what does this mean? Development is an interaction. Maturation, genetic endowment. So, your genetics does play a huge role in this, and how you react, how you act, and how mature you are. And your learning, experience, and practice. So whatever you're learning, you have to practice. Children say, okay, this is what we did today. They obviously like to repeat the same thing. They keep practicing. And once they're really good at it, they just feel very happy about it. So they keep doing the same thing. Repetition is very, very high during the stage. So with maturation, unfolding of characteristics potentially present in the individual's genetic endowment. Yeah. So it's basically genetic. I hope it is clear. So physical development in early childhood. Physical changes accompanied by more rapid changes in cognitive and linguistic. Erickson, Kohlberg, Piaget, Bronfenbrenner, I think I'm saying it right, I hope I'm saying it right, explains subtle physical changes. So this I've just made very, very small points in it because I did not come across this anywhere in the questions or anywhere, but I just wanted to cover it for basic. So height growth rate shows the average child in this stage grows to 21 by 2 inches, I believe, and 5 to 7 pounds per year. So every year they put on this much and grow this height, 21 inches around. The average weight increases by 3 to 5 pounds. So 6 pounds is like a kg, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So around that 1 to 2 kgs. At age 6, children should gain weight. Sorry?
2 pounds per kg.
3 pounds, is it? 3 pounds is 1 kg?
Geetha,
2.2 pounds. 2.2 pounds is 1 kg.
1 pound is 450 grams.
You don't want all that. Don't do grams and all. One.
No, that I use that in baking. That's why I'm so familiar with it.
Okay. Yeah. So the average girl weighs around 45 pounds and the average boy weighs 49 pounds. Why they have to differentiate again here, girl and boy, I don't know. Basically, it's just 1 pound difference. So whatever the grams that you just mentioned. Body fat declines during preschool years. Obviously, they are more active now. They have a play area. They are not just sitting at home. They're out and about. So the fat in the body does decline. And hopefully the obesity also for the children. Body build. Body differences are fairly seen during this period. Some children have, again, we are going into the endomorphic, which is flabby fat, and mesomorphic, which is sturdy look, muscular look, and ectomorphic, which is a thin body. So boys have more muscle while girls have more fat. Okay, this we can't argue with. That is actually true. The boys' muscles become larger, stronger, and heavier. They do have a tendency to gain more muscle than girls. Motor skills, gross and fine motor skills progress rapidly. It includes running, skipping, jumping, again, because they're out and about, they're able to explore and hone their motor skills. And we spoke about this, about the illnesses as well, because if they're ill and they're not able to, play, it will hinder their motor skills as well. Brain development. The most important physical development during early childhood is the brain and the nervous system growth. Obviously, like with the toy age, like we said earlier, it's called the toy age. So it's very important for the development of the brain. Body proportion and shape. The average preschool child requires 1,700 calories. Well-balanced meals in this stage become their diet. Skeletal growth, body shape, susceptibility to disease. Again, I think we did cover that earlier. Teeth. During the first 4 to 6 months of this stage, the last 4 baby teeth, back molars, erupt. During the last year of early childhood, the baby teeth begin to be replaced by permanent teeth. So during the last half year of early childhood, so they said around 2 to 7 years, so probably by 6.5, you will get your permanent teeth. So then early childhood is over. The child generally has 1 or 2 permanent teeth in front and some gaps where permanent teeth will eventually erupt. So that is your physical development. Then you have your psychosocial development in early childhood. So this term was coined by Erik Erikson. I can't keep a list of the number of theories and terms that he's coined. But 1994 seems very recent for me. I think I was in college at the time. So it describes the impact of social experiences across the whole lifespan. I think it's a very, very important thing in the lifespan, the social experiences, because we are into this social world right now. So I think this theory really would help. Maybe it needs an update. One of the best known theories of personality is personality in developmental psychology. So Erik Erikson's theory is one of the best known theories. He coined the term psychosocial. Psychosocial means, sorry, psychological is mind and social is relationship. So he came up with the word psychosocial. Develop self-conscious emotions. So they do develop, I mean, they are developing because of the social experience they have. They are becoming more self-conscious. They are understanding, recognizing that emotion. Autonomy versus shame and doubt. Children evaluate themselves. So when you're in this social experience and, something happens to embarrass you, go into the cafeteria and, you drop your whole tray or your lunch box, or you trip and fall, so that's, it's like a very thing, like a shameful thing for them. And they try and evaluate themselves to say that what was wrong with me, They could be positive, negative, or ashamed. Sometimes it could be positive. The experience will also bring out the positive emotion. So they evaluate whether it is positive, negative, or anything else. So young children sometimes see themselves as good, valuable people who are able to do what is expected of them in a positive way. So all these emotions they're recognizing, they're evaluating. So in contrast, some of them feel shameful and worthless and incapable of doing what is expected of them. So again, it's a contrast, complete opposites. So either way, they're trying to evaluate themselves. And when they become more aware and start communicating and have better understanding of their feelings, their social skills will increase. They have to become more self-confident, understand what they're feeling, put it aside, and express themselves appropriately. Their social skills will increase. And they modify and express the emotions to fit different social situations, like I just said. So they modify it to say that, okay, if I am able to modify my behavior, I'll fit into this peer group. So I'm not going to express what I actually feel. I think there was an experiment, I think we did, I don't know if it was cognitive, where everybody selects the same thing because their peer group person has selected the same thing, even if they felt that it was wrong. So you just go with the flow, basically. So yeah, they become and they fit into the society. Main thing is fitting into the society. They're changing or controlling one's emotions in a social situation is very important skill that helps a child to develop interpersonal relationships. I think we just said that. Children who successfully complete the stage feel secure and confident. Children who have trouble in the stage feel inadequate and have self-doubt. So the previous point, who successfully complete the stage feel secure and confident. Again, I understand the general term to say that successfully complete the stage, but I guess they're talking about the 7 years. But again, how successful you are is very relative. So as long as the child is confident and doesn't have any psychosocial or psychological issues, I would say they're, fairly successful in this, because they can gain their skills even at a later stage. And those who have trouble in the stage, feel inadequate and self-doubt, yeah, that would probably be a little bit huge. Again, they can change in the next stage. So these are some of the psychosocial development points. So now we move on to cognitive development. Jean Piaget describes two processes of cognitive development: assimilation and accommodation. I found this very interesting. Assimilation, taking the information from the environment and placing it into pre-existing cognitive structures. Example, a child sees, sorry, there was a mistake there, any four-legged animal and immediately points to the animal and says dog. It could be a cat, it could be a horse, it could be a cow, but for them, they're not able to differentiate. It says 4 legs is a dog. I mean, that's how they see it because that's their cognitive structure or schemas, it's called. And accommodation is changing the cognitive structure to accommodate the environment. So the child learns to differentiate and changes the cognitive structure in their brain, that is, from 4-legged animals to dog, cat. So you're differentiating. So basically here what they mean is you see something in the environment and you try and place it in a little box in your brain to say, okay, this one is a 4-legged, so this goes into this particular box. So that means it's a dog. And that's it. You're not willing to, I mean, that's just the way it is, to say that it could be anything else. No, it's a 4-legged, it's a dog, it's going into this box. That's it, this container. Or the schema also it's called. So that is it. You're not changing your perception of it. Accommodation is you're seeing this 4-legged, but you know it is not a dog. So you're going to change this little container in your brain, mold it to say that, you know what, in that 4-legged, please make another small compartment to put dog and cat or cow or whatever. So you're making subcompartments there. So you're changing your cognitive structure in your brain to accommodate what you're seeing, which is in the environment. And I think this assimilation, accommodation should be applied throughout your life. Because you do see something and we still think like, no, that can't be possible. Even if you're taking even the right situation right now, is COVID also to say that like, no, what third wave? No, we don't want to accept it. We do not put that in any box right now because it does not exist. But if there is going to happen, we need to change, we need to accommodate, we need to accept it and put it and file it again in a different compartment to say that, yes, this is the actual truth, what we are seeing, not what is imaginary in our head. So this is basically how a child's development, cognitive development starts. Assimilation and accommodation. Piaget, right? Piaget's 4 stages of cognitive development. Sensory motor stage, which is from birth to 2 years. Pre-operational stage, which is from 2 years to 7 years, which is what is the early childhood. And sensory motor stage is in the prenatal, I think birth to 2 years. Concrete operational stage, 7 to 11 years, and formal operational stage, which is 11 and above. So now we're going to obviously do the pre-operational stage because we're doing the early childhood. So pre-operational stage is 2 to 7 years. During this period, children are thinking at a symbolic level, but are not yet using cognitive operations. So I believe during this stage, everything is about symbols. As you can see in the background, the child is thinking that you're going on a horse, even if you're on a broom. It's very symbolic. So they're actually imagining that that is happening. So that is how the children view it, with symbols. Egocentrism refers to the child's inability to see a situation from another person's point of view. It is predominant at this stage. When a child is leaving the home and going into the preschool, I mean, at home, he's much more accommodated by his parents to say, yeah, this is what it is. No, don't worry and all that. But in the preschool, he will be finding it hard for the others to understand what are they saying. He doesn't understand why they can't see it from his point of view. 2 to 4 years, children form stable concepts and mental reasoning begins to develop. Again, this has the social environmental effects as well. So their reasoning starts to develop. 4 to 7 years, the why question arises and children develop intuitive thought and reasoning. I thought that was very interesting that even at such an early stage, the why, I mean, I think again, if people who have children would know that, they have asked 1,000 questions the minute they can talk. Why is this? No, why? I think my son, I told you, is 22 years old. He still asks me why. So it's a very, very important question to ask. And yeah, they develop their intuition, thought, and reasoning. If your little one bursts into tears because their playmate has lured away their imaginative puppy, you'll have to try and sympathize with their pain. Role playing is also a thing at this stage. Your kiddo may pretend to be daddy, mommy, teacher, or doctor, to name a few. So when the playmate has lured away their imaginative puppy, for him it is real. It's very symbolic. He actually thinks he's holding it. He does not know he's imagining it. For him, it's so real. So, you have to understand and comprehend what they are feeling. Their pain is real. So you need to learn to sympathize with that. And there's a lot of role playing as well at this age. So next is linguistic development in early childhood. Again, very, very important to communicate. So good language allows the child to communicate properly and feel confident. Birth to 3 years, approximately 300,000 words. Again, this was not very much there. I just giving you a very, very brief points. 5 years is 1,500 words, and 7 years is masters, consonants, opposites, and must be able to tell the time. Again, I don't agree with these particular things that they say for every year. I think each child has his own growing stage, but of course we will encourage them, but I would not hold them to this. So that is actually the end of it, of the chapter. I just wanted to include a few things because I just love these points. So actually in Russia, children start school only at the age of 6 to 7. They do not go to school. Their formative years are very, very important. Only they're at home, learning through play, learning, spending time with their family. And the way we deal with the rest of our lives depends a lot on our experiences during this stage. I think I've read and learned about this, that till 6 to 7 years is very, very important stage. So the parents don't actually send the kids to school. Assimilation and accommodation, I think we spoke about it earlier, both work in tandem as part of the learning process. So they have to work together. Schemas, I mentioned this again, actions or mental representations that organize knowledge. The compartments and the containers that I spoke about are also called as schemas. And these were the questions that were there in the document for the past questions that have come from this chapter. Describe social development during childhood. Discuss characteristics of early childhood. Discuss physical, psychosocial, cognitive. That's basically the whole, this was a 450 word question. So that's basically the whole chapter. Cognitive development in early childhood and the psychological hazards. And sorry, okay, this one is, I can just read through quickly, we're running short. Well, it turns out that unlike algebra or medieval history, spoken language isn't something kids learn. It's something their brains are specially equipped to do from the moment they are born. As they move through the world, they learn things like reading and writing, but speaking is a skill children are already built to acquire, like walking, basically. That's what they said. And this is why linguistics and child psychologists generally avoid using the term language learning, unless talking about second languages, like a foreign language, for example. Instead, they tell us that kids go through something called language acquisition. You can still learn all kinds of things, including languages at older ages in life. This critical period, which is the early childhood, for learning just means that the early years are times of rapid growth. They're like a sponge. They just absorb everything that they see and learn. So toddlers develop more things during this critical period much more smoothly than they would later on. So that's why, the parents put them in all sorts of music groups, play groups, sports and everything to see like which one do they absorb, and then, then they can shortlist later on. Well, guys, I've come to the end of it. I think I'm okay with the time. Anybody